Hey there, so thanks for checking out our 60 Touch Database Blueprint. I'm Dave Hook over at the Dave Hook Real Estate team, and in the next few minutes, I'm super excited to share a little bit about our 60 Touch system in our team that helped our team scale to net $1 million. And we're going to share the exact blueprint that our team runs that has evolved over the last decade to build a massive referral-based business where you're not paying for leads or you're not held vulnerable to all of the pricing changes and technology changes out there, and you're essentially doing your own marketing to the people that you know, like, and trust. And that is going to start to snowball, as it did for our team, to be an engine that drives your team to reach all of its goals. So excited to share that with you. And we're just going to go over a short agenda, and then I'm going to share the exact blueprint for my team, as well as give you a gift that is a lever that I drew up, and it's going to be an onboarding training for you or all of your new agents to build their own database business. So this training not only comes with the education of the blueprint, but also a free database lever that you can help newer agents use to build their database in their first year in business. So on to our agenda. So we're going to talk first a little bit about my story, just a couple minutes so you can get to know who I am and why this matters so much to me. Second thing is why the database actually makes more sense than the other 21 lead sources that we have in our real estate business. The third thing is exactly tactically how to run the database 60 Touch program. So that's the blueprint we're going to show you that you're going to want to take some notes on. The fourth thing is the handbook that is our database lever. We're going to go over that with you and give that to you as a gift. And that is for the newer agents, not your team, but the newer agents that want to build a database business of their own. We use it often for our agents' first year in onboarding, their first year in the business. And then we'll close, and I'll give you some things that you can do to take next steps if there's any other questions, or if our marketing team can help you build your business with the Done For You program that they offer teams all over United States and Canada. We'll share a little bit more about that. So without further ado, let's get on to my business journey. And you can see there on the slide a number of years ago. I'm not sure how old I was then, but you can see I got the camera around my neck. I got the drill in my hand. I got the hammer, if you look closely, on my belt. Those were the early days where you took your own listing photos. You pounded the sign in with the hammer and the 2x4. And everything for me back then was prospecting based. My answer to everything was, I'm going to work harder, not necessarily smarter. My main drive or lead pillar to get business was door knocking. I also called expireds and FSBOs. I was in my early 20s, and if you could picture this for a second, I actually realized that if I put my rollerblades on, full decked out in a suit and tie, I could hit 4 times the amount of doors in the 3 neighborhoods I was farming than if I just was walking or taking a stroll in my shoes. So there I am in my early 20s with my rollerblades going door to door. And I did that for a couple years, a few hours every single day. And it actually worked. So I built a really big business and a brokerage. And I was doing really well as far as what external success looks like. But I looked at my phone one day, and I had 90 inbound and outbound calls to my cell phone on my Verizon phone bill in one single day. And it was then I realized I was starting to burn out. And as I sort of did an internal search about how my business was run, I realized I either needed to get out of the business or do the business very different. And that's where I stumbled upon the database, working by referral. So as you look at my business then, if you've never seen a picture of a headache, I think that's my right side of my temple there. That is a picture of a headache, and that's what my health started to look like. That's my visual as I look back at my business then. On the outside, my business looked like it was great. I was doing 12 million in sales volume, 60 hours a week in sales, and then profiting in my sales business about $250,000. Not a bad life. I also was owning and running a brokerage on the side that was doing 50 or 60 million, and spending probably 30 hours a week in that, so 90-hour work weeks on average. But in my sales business, what we're talking about today, it was a 60-hour work week, and it looked like it was doing well. I have there on the side, you can see no compassion program, and that's our give back program. So this business was not giving back to the community. It was certainly not giving life to me. I was overworked, and I sort of just fell into a lot of unhealthy tendencies: achievement addiction, progress addiction, everything to sort of keep up with the Joneses and make the next sale. It became very transactional, and as I said, I was burning out, and my health was affected. So this was not a life-giving business, although if you would have looked around the community at all my signs and the brokerage, people would have said, man, he's really successful. But inside, I didn't feel that way. And that's what my business looked like back then. Now, fast forwarding to the last year or so, business was 2022 or 2023, depending on the year, 90 to 100 million in sales volume. And depending on the year, profitability between 800 and a million. And the time spent in that business, because I've met with a client in sales in about 6 or 7 years, and there's an amazing leadership team that runs that business. So I'm a consultant who's the sole shareholder, and I spend about an hour and a half every 2 weeks supporting the leadership team that runs that business so that they can help get them to their goals and their career vision and their life by design. And they can support the agents and the other team members in that business to get to their goals. This business gives away about $100,000 to people in crisis in the community, and it's a life-giving business, not only for me, but also for the leadership team and the agents and staff that are part of it and get to be part of it. So very different business, a lot more freedom for everyone in the business, a lot more opportunity for multiple team members. It's not just me doing everything, but I've empowered other people to help. So the question is, what was the aha at the point of burnout where I sort of decided I need to get out of the business or do it differently? And I stumbled across that first domino that changed everything, which was the database. And that brings us to the second part of the training, which is why the database matters so much. So here's what I figured out. There's 4 reasons the database performs at a much higher return on investment, return on energy, we'll talk about that in a moment, than any other lead source that exists in our real estate business. So the first reason is there's pre-built trust. And let me explain that for a moment. So we're going to go to a slide where I'm going to ask you to do some math. So get your calculators out, your phones out for a second. But what I learned is that when I went door to door or did circle prospecting or even called expireds or FSBOs or even a paid lead, at first contact, I was starting a journey to build trust. That journey, I realized, takes about 5 hours per human being of doing what you're going to say you're going to do and interacting with that person until they say, I've interacted with that guy enough. I kind of know Dave, like him, trust him. He does what he said he's going to do. And at that point, you've earned their referrals. Or if they or somebody they know has a life change happen to them, it's likely you are one of the first people that's going to come to their mind. That's the trust building process. Anytime I have a cold lead or contact, it takes 5 hours of interaction to build trust with that person. My aha was that as I was knocking on doors, door to door, multiple hours per day for a couple years, 3 housing developments, I had my binder with me. I took notes on every conversation. I spent 5 hours per contact, and finally, over the course of a year or two, had built trust with 250 people that I knew their name. I'd interact with them. They would see me out in public and wave to me. They knew me. They liked me. They trusted me. But it took 5 hours per person for 250 people before I'd earned their trust, so that if they or somebody they knew had a life change, I would be somebody they thought of to give me the referral or give me the piece of business. My aha was that had I done business a little differently from the beginning and gone back to all of the people that I had already spent 5 hours with over the course of my lifetime, people in my phone, people that my parents knew, people in my high school yearbook, people that were invited to my wedding, people that were Facebook friends, people that were saved in my email storage, all of these people I had spent 5 hours with over the course of the past few decades. I had already earned their know, like, and trust. And if they had a life change, they'd likely refer me as long as I stayed top of their mind. what I had done, what my massive business failure was in the first few years of business, and I see this with so many others, perhaps you as well, is that we go after these shiny objects, these cold lead sources, and we start the journey at minute one, earning their trust, which takes 5 hours a person. And just like me, I went door to door for 2 years to get 250 people to trust me enough to give me their business when I had already invested 5 hours in 250 people over the past couple decades. And my foolish business decision was I didn't put them on a list and capitalize on that time already spent. Just humor me for a minute so you can see on this slide, if you could do this exercise, if you had cold relationships, you got to invest 5 hours per person to earn their trust. For 250 contacts, that's going to take you 1,250 hours. Now, if you remember on a previous slide, my dollar per hour when I was at my peak in my first business, the unhealthy one, was $83 an hour. So if I had to spend $83 an hour for 1,250 hours to generate 250 people that know me, like me, and trust me, that's going to cost me, of time invested, $103,750. Now, here's the foolish business decision. If I would have just started on day one, like so many of us, and sat down and looked at my cell phone and Facebook friends and high school yearbook and wedding invite list and people my parents know and siblings know, people that are already in my world, and I just document for 10 hours of really monotonous work, I get it, it's boring, and highlight the people that already know me, like me, and trust me, that I already invested the 5 hours with, that would take, to generate 250 contacts, it would take 10 hours. At $83 an hour, that's $830 invested. So the difference is we often start our career and spend $103, in this example, $1,000 over 2 years of our time generating new contacts that trust us enough to give us their business when we already have invested $103,000. And all we need to do is invest $830 more of our time to capitalize on all that money and get a return on it. That's a wise business decision. And that's why the database performs at such a higher return on investment than any other lead source out of 21 in our business. So let's go back to why the database. The second reason is because of the pre-built trust, it has the highest return on investment and return on energy. We just talked about that. So we just wanted to dot that I and let you know that when we track our business, this part of our business returns exponentially higher. The third thing is that it's very predictable, scalability. So for every 10 people in our database that are on a 60 touch, that know us, like us, trust us, we can count on one of them going to a closing, or they've referred somebody in the next year. So if we have, to give you an example, 500 people in our database on a 60 touch program that know us, like us, trust us, we can count on at least 50 closings attributed to that database grouping in the next year. If it's 1,000, we can count on 100. If we want to sell 200 homes, you got it. We got to get 2,000 people in our database and touch them 60 times a year. And the last one is it amplifies the other lead sources in our business, which we'll talk about in a second. But there's an order to building a large team. It starts with the engine, which is the database, and then we can build lead pillars around that give us an actual return on investment because the engine is running at full throttle in the middle of our business. So we've talked about pre-built trust and the math behind the investment. So that's the next slide. You can see ROI, just to pause here a second, just a few of our lead sources, the returns on these lead sources change every year. So I wouldn't, copy these or assume it's going to work like this in your market. But the year we did this attribution, OpCity wasn't giving us a return. It was 1-to-1. Zillow was about a 3-to-1. Expired Fizbo was a 13-to-1. And you can see Inner Circle 60 Touch, that's our 60 Touch program. For every dollar we spent, we were earning 31. And so that returned for us, depending on the lead source, 2, 3, 4, and up to 10 times higher than our other lead sources. Next one is scalability. So this is a very predictable side of our business. So again, we had 1,800 people in our database at the time that we produced these slides. And that year we got, out of our 350 sales or so, we got about half of them, 175 of them, attributed to our touch program. And so that's 1 in 10 on average we can expect to convert. Lastly, it amplifies our other lead pillars. So if we go and do a social media campaign and we don't have a database running, it might not return for us a whole lot. All that time and energy might give us a little bit of a return, but not a whole lot. But if we run a database 60 touch program with 500 people that know, like, and trust us, and they're seeing our brand and our content, we're giving them good value through direct mail, through email, through video, through text, through calls, through client events, all the stuff that we do. And then we're intentional about adding those same 500 people to our Facebook page and having them follow us. And then they see that same content in their feed. Now we've just taken a 60 touch and perhaps made it a 72 or an 80 or a 90 touch, because we're showing up more in their world. That social media is going to return at a much higher rate than if we did it without our 60 touch. The same goes for paid leads. If we pay for leads in a certain zip code, our return is X. But if we run a 60 touch program on 500 people who primarily live in a certain zip code, and then we buy leads in that zip code and we show up when those people go to home search, that paid lead source is going to return for us at a much higher rate because the database is in the center of the world. So every other lead source tends to be amplified when we're running the database at the center of our business. So recap, 4 reasons database matters so much. It should be the first domino that takes your business from where it is today to where mine was last year and the year before. 1, there's pre-built trust. $103,000 flushed down the toilet versus $103,000 captured because you've spent 10 hours and gone back and documented your list of people that you already spent time with and got them to trust you so that they're ready to give you their business. Pre-built trust. And because of that, has the highest ROI, return on energy, return on investment, of any lead source we have. Also, it scales, so it's predictable. 1 in 10 convert. And lastly, it amplifies all the other lead sources in our business. So on to the next phase of the training. Tactically, how do we run on our team our 60 touch program? Now, this is my gift to you in this training. It's our blueprint that we've spent over 10 years evolving. We've been extremely intentional about the pieces and the types of media that we send out to touch in with the people that know, like, and trust us. So if you're going to take notes, this is a great part to do it. So number 1, 3 steps. Number 1, build your database. Number 2, feed your database. And then number 3, we're going to communicate with our database. So let's break that down. Step 1, build it. This is the unsexy, very boring, monotonous work that nobody wants to do. But this is the work that's worth the $103,000. So it is worth your time. There's not a better investment you can make with your time in your first week and month in the business than this activity. So time block a few hours in your calendar next week or next month. Use Exhibit A and the lever that I'm going to give, that's my gift to you, to come up with your first 150 people in your database. And so that's going to give you a jump start. Then go to your mobile phone list, social media, names stored in your email, yearbooks, wedding invite list, church directory, things like that, to document all of the other people, write their names in a spreadsheet that know, like, and trust you. And my litmus test for that is if you see them in the grocery store and you'd likely be like, hey, and ask them how they're doing, they do the same, they probably have made the list. Make sure you highlight the names that pass that litmus test, and then research their contact information so that you can find their cell phone number, preferably email, and address information. All 3 of those are incredibly important to run a 60 touch program. So you got to follow up and get that information, and then load those people with their contact information into your CRM. Step 2, feed your database. So once a month, the end of the month, have a time block in your calendar that says contact management. In the notes of that calendar event, write instructions to yourself to add at least 4 new people to your database that month. If you do that over the course of your first year in business, you're not only going to start with a couple hundred people in your database that you've gotten to know over your lifetime, but you're going to add another 48, 50, 52 people to your database in the course of your first year. Then make sure every month anybody you close with also is added to your database touch program. And last but not least, and here's where we're going to show you our blueprint, and you can take this and make it your own. But this is what converts 1 in 10 people in our database by referral. So 12 direct mail, we're going to show you a copy of what they are in a moment. 4 items of value, 36 emails, 4 client events, and 4 calls. TCPA compliant, of course. So let's talk about the 12 direct mail. So in our 12 direct mail, every other month, 6 times a year, it's a newsletter. And then the other month, 6 times a year, it's a postcard with a handwritten note. Let's just talk about both of those pieces for a minute. So you can see here in the slide a copy of our newsletter. Couple things to note. Doesn't have to be 6 pages like ours. I started with 1 page. I'd encourage you to include your listings if you have them. I'd also encourage you to write a personal sort of a blog or a write-up on the front of your newsletter. Now here's the rules around writing content in our newsletter. There's 3 boundaries. It has to be personal, relevant, or local, preferably at least 2 out of the 3. Personal, relevant, or local. What we're not going to do is slap generic national media that somebody else wrote on our newsletter to our local database, because that's equivalent to spam. And it's not giving them valuable insights about you or their community. And so an example, I'll give you 2 examples of something that's personal, relevant, and local. Example on this one is what's happening in the Cumberland County real estate market that would affect your home, for example. Cumberland County is our market, and so then I'm going to outline exactly how much their home may have appreciated this year based upon our multi-list statistics. And so it's very relevant and it's very local. Well, it's not as personal, but it's relevant and local. So that's 2 out of the 3. Another example of something more personal, a couple years ago, I used to have a fear of public speaking that I went to therapy for, and I worked on it. Now I love public speaking, get a lot of energy from it. But at the time I was going through this sort of crisis, trying to understand why I was so panicked about it. And my article said, why do I have a fear of public speaking? That was very personal to me, and I wrote 2,000 characters about my journey there. And I got more text calls and emails after that article than just about anyone since. So personal is very valuable, relevant, and local. And that is how you can come from contribution and give personal, local, relevant value to your database. The next thing is our postcards. Now, some people have said, can't believe you still do postcards. Postcards are dead. The reality is our postcard campaign is one of the most valuable things that we do. You'll see I write a handwritten note on our postcard that's then laser printed on all of the other cards that go out. And it has a specific call to action. This one you can see at the bottom. It says, for your free home value estimate or your free cash offer, call. And then we put our tracking number in there for this particular mailing piece. You also note on all of our pieces, there are other small businesses in the community who are partnering with us on advertising space to help fund our database touch program. And so that's something you can ask your local attorney about and make sure you're compliant with any laws in your locale or your state. But partnering with local businesses is part of our campaign. And at the end, I'm going to show you an additional resource so that you can utilize what we call our brand ambassador program for your business as well. So 2 pieces so far: newsletter, postcard, newsletter, personal, relevant, and local content, postcard, handwritten note with 2 calls to action. And so why do we do direct mail? One might ask. What we need to have happen is we need our database to get a minimum of 33 touches a year. And the truth is that when we look under the hood at most of your businesses that are doing email drips and digital touches, what we find is the unsubscribe rate, the open and click rate the unsubscribe rate is so high, the local open and click rate is so low, and the gray mail is so high that the actual percentage of your databases that are receiving a touch from you is much lower than you think it is. And so the reason we do variety in media is because we know that if we do 60 touches in 5 to 6 different types of media, we're going to make sure our entire database gets at least 2 to 3 impressions per month, no matter how you slice it. And so with that strategy, that's how we make sure our business is so predictable. Whereas other businesses say they have a database touch program, but in reality, a small percentage is actually getting the impression. So that's why direct mail matters so much. So step 2, digital email examples. And our digital email examples are going to be a hot listings email, a video email, and then some free download that they're going to be able to download and learn more. So 3 different types of emails. Our hot listings gets a really high open rate. The video email is going to answer a pain point or a relevant question in their area, something about the real estate business. And then we're going to offer them, again, a download or a free PDF. So 3 emails a month are going to go out. And then items of value. So you're going to see things like calendars or referral directories, or a market prospectus. And so these are bulkier mail pieces that go out quarterly and have a very high open rate. Lastly, we're going to do our 4 client events, and we're going to do our calls, TCPA compliant calls and texts around our client events, and direct mail inviting them to our client events. So we have 2 giveaways that are reverse call-ins, and then we have a fall blast client appreciation and a pumpkin pie pumpkin roll giveaway. So last but not least, the most important part, if you do all of this and not this, your business will not be predictable. But the reason we do all of the items and get all those touches in and come from contribution, and it's personal, relevant, and local, handwritten note, calls to action, all of the content, is because it sets us up for a very easy phone call 4 times a year to touch in and make sure they're getting the information. See if we can optimize and ask them what questions they'd like us to answer when we do a newsletter or a video. So we do a little survey. Invite them to the client event. That's an easy call. That's a layup. Or ask for business every once in a while. Or tell them about our nonprofit, one of our favorite calls. Who in the community do you know in financial crisis with an urgent need that we can serve? So all of these dialogues are my gift to you, and the lever I'm about to share with you. They're written in there from me to you, so you can train on them, copy them, make them your own. But the call is the most important thing that comes on the back of our 60 touch program. And if you do that and all the touches, you can rest assured that your database is going to start slowly but surely to gain momentum and refer you business. And the health of your business is going to change. And you're going to be able to add lead sources. This is going to be an engine that supports your business for many, many years to come. So what's next? A couple things that people ask about. They ask about our nonprofit. If you're interested in our nonprofit, how we partner with our database and ask them who they know in the community that we can serve anonymously who's in financial crisis. And we do that call once a year. And then our database fills out a little form because they may know of a neighbor in crisis who got a medical diagnosis or lost a job. And then we approve some financial help because we make a donation every time we have a closing to our nonprofit. And our nonprofit approves it. And we give a check without our name on it to our database partner that comes into our office. And we say, deliver that to your friend. Let them know a faith-based local business wanted to help them in a time of need. And that becomes the heartbeat of our database program and of our team. So if you want to learn more about that, just ask us. There's a link here on the website. You can just reach out to us and ask for our 7-step ministry building video, which will show you how to build that out as part of your database program. Also, you can see here our database lever. And so this is my gift to you. Just, again, reach out if you have any questions about it. I would love for you to use it, print it, distribute it to your team, use it to get from 0 to a 33 touch program. There's action items in there. And then you can use the training from earlier today, our actual blueprint, to run if you have a larger team. But this lever is typed for somebody, an individual who doesn't have a budget, doesn't have a lot of money yet, and just wants to go from nothing to something. So this is the first step. This is my gift to you. And remember, the exhibit on the back page will help you get your first 150 contacts. So use this and ask us if you have any questions at all. Any other tools to help? So you have our training, you have our playbook, our lever. The other thing I want to mention, a lot of people ask, I would say for every 10 people or so that watch this training, 3 or 4 are asking for more information. We do have a done-for-you program. So the marketing team that runs the 60 touch program and built it for my team that does 350 transactions, that same marketing team does this for other agents and teams all over the country. If you're doing 8 to 10 or more transactions, or you plan on doing 8 to 10 or more transactions this year, this program might be a really good fit for you. The feedback that we've got, and the marketing team seems to onboard about 3 people a month as their capacity. There tends to be a waiting list sometimes. The feedback that we've got is, why aren't you charging more for this? The truth is that we're able to do this at a fairly low and reasonable cost, and we're able to help people meet them where their business is and help them run a 60 touch program, taking 80% of the administration of all the marketing pieces, all the design, all that stuff off of you so you don't have to think about it. And then just prompt you for a few things we need from you every month. and help hold you accountable to those 4 calls a year. So it really works well for people who want to focus on the things they love to do, which is the people part of the business, and know they probably won't be as good at the other 80% that they just offload to this marketing team. So if you want to learn more about that, the marketing team does about 3 or 4 free consultations every single week, and they're happy to do one with you. There's no pressure or anything. They'll audit your database. They'll give you some free tips, and if it looks like it's a fit and you want to do the Done For You program, you just ask them, and they can onboard you or put you on the waiting list. So if you have any questions about any of that or our zero cost add-ons, which you can see here on this slide, just reach out to us. We have the Brand Ambassador Program menu, which can be a gift that we would give you if you reach out to us. We have the 7 steps to build a nonprofit video, and of course we have the free strategy session with our marketing team to audit your database, give you some tips, and see if the Done For You program might be a good opportunity and a good fit for your business. I hope this training was really valuable to you. I hope that you'll take 1, 2, or 3 action items and implement in your business. And I hope you'll reach out to John and the marketing team at Rooted Business Consulting for a free strategy session. There's nothing to lose, and it's a great opportunity to take your database to the next level.